Hi, it's Clive Evans here, speaking live from the Mealuck Valley on the west coast of Ireland. If you haven't heard of it, it's the epicentre of the world today. Actually, not a lot going on here, but this is as good a place to talk to you from as any. What did happen here today? 4 lambs were born. I'll try and show you a picture of them later on if I get time. The milk tanker went past. That's it. Mind you, what happened in the rest of the world? Well, do you remember this from last week? There are decades where nothing happens and there are weeks where decades happen. Last week was another one. Wow. Interesting. What did we tell you last week? We said vital that you stick in. Vital that you stick in. And the financial news this week, because this is videos about financial stuff and all about well-being stuff as well. Financial stuff comes first, I guess, because that's what you're expecting me to do. Financial stuff. What happened? Well, I told you about President Bush's determined. You know, the man with the red tie? He is determined to get back into the White House. And what has he done? Well, $2 trillion package announced on Monday, resulting in, therefore, on Tuesday, that was yesterday, today's Wednesday, the New York Stock Exchange, or sorry, the S&P, went up by its largest ever amount since 2008, which of course is the bottom of the last major fall. So the point I'm trying to make to you is you have to be in here to take advantage of that. Correspondingly, the FTSE went up by 10% yesterday as well. If you are not invested at this time, you can't take advantage of that. And that's what my buddy Glyn, head honcho at Momentum Investment Management, is going to be telling you about in a minute from his he's holed up in Leicestershire as opposed to the City of London, and of course he's wearing his country cords and stuff to address you. So he's coming on next. Let's see what he has to say.
Well, I've been working in the financial services industry and the investment markets for close to 50 years, almost as long as Clive, who I think from memory is about 3 days older than me. And I've been, like Clive, I've been through lots of economic and market cycles, but never did I think I'd face something quite as dramatic as the one we're experiencing now, where large parts of the world are in effective lockdown. But of course, above all else, what we face is a humanitarian crisis, the likes of which none of us have experienced in peacetime. And it's that that's been dominating our thinking in recent weeks. But quite obviously, what has happened is the fear and disruption on this scale is having a huge impact on global economic activity. And in turn on financial markets. While the scale of the immediate slump in activity is dramatic, the way in which markets are behaving is not really materially different to other downturns in the past that have been caused by a sudden exogenous shock. So although we haven't experienced this humanitarian crisis on this scale before, we have experienced cycles many times, we've been through them, and we have quite a bit of experience in how to behave through those. Now, the sharp falls that we've seen in markets in the past month really reflect the scale of the downturn in activity, the hit to companies' revenues and profits, which we're now seeing on a daily basis, of course. And on top of that, we inevitably get distressed selling in the early stages of a big sell-off. We get it in every downturn, people who are overextended, too much debt, they become forced sellers, they sell at any price to raise cash. And then we get those people who simply can't take any further falls, they can't afford any more losses, they just have to panic out of markets. Eventually, we get through that phase of the cycle, and during which period markets get really very heavily oversold, they've discounted much of the bad news, if not all of it, and they're pricing in Armageddon. And that seems to be the point at which we are approaching in this market cycle. Now, that gives big opportunities for long-term investors. So the key points I want to make about this are, first of all, don't panic. Don't get consumed by the barrage of bad news, the media hype that we're seeing every day. You turn on the radio or TV, it's a nightmare. Selling after falls of 30 or 40% in just a month simply locks in the losses and means you're going to miss out on the recovery. Don't do it. Second thing is, recovery will come. We don't know when, we don't know the depth and duration of this crisis, but we do know it's going to end in due course. It will end. The third thing to remember, we're seeing now governments and central banks right around the world, notably here in the UK, stepping up to the plate, have taken absolutely extraordinary measures to protect employment, to protect workers and companies, and importantly, to provide liquidity in financial markets to ensure the smooth functioning of all the capital markets. We're now seeing that coming into effect, and it's helping a lot. And finally, the fourth point I'd make, it's vital to ensure your investments are in trusted hands with experienced professionals and being carefully managed. In an environment of high risk, it's essential to be in a well-diversified and actively managed portfolio spread across a wide range of different asset classes and underlying stocks. Here at Momentum, we're ensuring that we protect capital as far as we possibly can in this crisis by investing in a wide range of high-quality funds, and we're positioned then to participate in the recovery when it comes. Markets today are lower than they've been for years, and the falls we've seen in just 1 month are bigger than the sorts of falls we've seen in many bear markets in the past. That means there are some really big opportunities now for longer-term investors. Valuations have improved substantially, and as we come out of this crisis, we can see a really excellent recovery in equity markets. So my final message is this: stay invested through this turmoil, ensure you've got a properly diversified portfolio managed by professionals, take advantage of the opportunities for longer term investment now being presented.
Thanks for that, Glyn. I tried to keep that, I asked you to keep that mostly non-technical, and that's about as non-technical as city guys get. But I think you get the point. You have to be in the markets to take advantage of what's going on right now, and there's plenty of good stuff going on as well as all sorts of other good, not so good stuff. If you aren't an investor, it's clearly a good time to be getting in. 10% gains on the S&P yesterday. Either way, you're got to be in. If you're not in, it's a good time to get in. If you're in, for God's sake, stay in, because you will only turn your paper loss, in other words, you're looking at your account and going, it's not looking very good. If you push that button, it will crystallize into a real loss. Whereas, as we can see, it has every opportunity to rebound, and get you to where you want to be financially. So, we've talked about your wealth. Let's talk about your health. Well, pretty depressing out there, especially if you're banged up at home. It's not good. There's all sorts of kind of negative vibes flying about, and more negatives than positives. So there are things you might want to think about in terms of looking after yourself while all of this is going on. For a start, stop worrying about your money. Please let the professionals do it for you. That's their job. That's what they do. You can concentrate on doing things that are important to you. Teresa found a really good resource during the week, and it was some advice from a lady called Julia Samuel, who had looked after Prince Harry and Prince William when they lost their mother, Princess Diana. Now, that must have been an awful situation to be in when you're that old. And her advice, I think, is very sanguine for anybody that's going through traumatic times. Accept the situation is very difficult, and don't just assume it'll all be okay, because it won't. Focus on your strengths, and you'd have to dig deep and look at them first to realise what they are. Maybe that's part of it. We all have this wisdom and capacity to do so. Everybody has that. We all have it. Rich and poor, lots of time to think. We're all going to have feelings, and those can be positive or negative. If they're negative, recognise what they are. They're self-destructive, anger, all that sort of stuff. It eats you up. Joy is brilliant. It really makes you feel better, doesn't it? Okay? Don't act out this anger. Don't take it out on other people. Breathe. Count to 10, before you say anything. And I thought the best bit which is really useful, and it's something that I'm trying to do quite a lot here at the moment, I'll explain in a minute, is create a new structure. Especially if you have time to do it. We all have a lot more time now. We're not jumping in cars and going to places and stuff. For work time, fun time, time for yourself, exercise, time. Time is where it's at. I'm walking 3 to 4 kilometres a day today. Well, every day at the moment, because I'm not jumping the car, not going places. Doing all video calls, just in between things, I can go up the road. It's amazing. Absolutely amazing what you can do. And if you're trying to think of things to do, well, here's another thought. I mean, What's going on out there? I've been to more meetings in the last week than I've been to in ages because, everybody's jumped on the bandwagon of video podcasting, stuff that we've been doing for a while here. But the software and stuff, Zoom and stuff like that, fantastic. I'm scheduling more meetings with you guys out there to talk about stuff, and it's not just money, it's about life, the universe and everything. 42 for people that remember The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. It's all about who we are and the world we now find ourselves in and how we make the best of it. Like, I went to a cocktail party last night. A buddy of mine called Anric Blatt, who runs a consultancy firm in Vail, Colorado, invited me to a virtual cocktail party. Basically a conference call, but with drinks in your hand. 12 people from all around the world sitting around with a drink in their hand saying, hey, what can we do today to try and help each other to get through all this in our businesses and to help other people? What a cool idea. Why don't you reach out to a community and do the same thing? I've got a whole bunch of buddies out there, who love driving fast cars and basic petrol heads who are stuck at home, can't go anywhere. So I've arranged a virtual pub night for them tomorrow night on Zoom. And today, to make it easier, we've had a new broadband connection come in here. Fantastic, actually. It's 95 megabits a second, which is fibre speed, and it's all done through the wireless system somehow or other. Beats me. And here's the interesting bit: they came and stuck a box on the house. A guy drilled a hole in the wall, poked a wire through it, and basically said, "Connect that up through the window." Didn't even have to see him. Life moves pretty fast, when you've got to do things like that. So what are we learning? There are new ways to do stuff and stuff you can do. You can use all this stuff to reach out and help other people, can't you? Why don't you do that? Instead of worrying, reach out and help folk. What can you do to help somebody get through this awful situation? Because most of the vibes are negative. Let's get some good vibes out there. What else did Anric teach me? Well, here's a new super idea. He went through the SARS epidemic. He went through the SARS epidemic in Hong Kong. Dreadful, actually. Smaller in geographical area, but a huge percentage of the population died in that. People were literally jumping out of skyscrapers because they had SARS. I mean, that's bloody scary stuff. And Anric kind of reinvented his life about this period. He decided he was never going to do that anymore and live in a place like this, which is why he now lives in Vail, Colorado. He's kind of a bit remote like us. And he showed me something the other day. He said, look, here's the problem with most people. Most people worry about all sorts of stuff. Actually, it wasn't stuff. It was something else beginning with S. He said, people worry about all sorts of and the problem is, most of this is of absolutely no use to them and they can't do anything about it. So really you should only focus on the stuff that matters. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Don't focus on everything, focus on the stuff that matters. Focus on the stuff that you can do something about. Oh, that makes sense. What's the point in worrying about something you can't do anything about? Focus on the stuff that matters. And he produced a thing called a Venn diagram. Here it is. And you can see there's this big circle of stuff that matters, big circle of stuff that you do something about. The overlap's quite small. That's the only bit to concentrate on, isn't it? Concentrate on the stuff that matters. Not everything else. But better yet, stuff that matters and you can control. Okay. Is there a third part to this? Yes, there is. Stuff that matters, overlaid with stuff you can control, that small bit, and actually stuff that you can schedule doing something about. In other words, I can control it, it's important, and I can program into my life doing something about it. Wow, that sounds exactly what Julia Samuel said. Program doing something about it. So, what are you going to do? Going to sit there and worry? Or are you going to try and help out a buddy or a neighbour or the little old lady down the road or the little old man down the road? My 92-year-old stepfather's in Bournemouth. And I spoke to him on the phone the other day, haven't got him to do video calls yet. And he said, I've been doing this for the last 10 years. More or less self-isolating all the time. What I can't quite understand is I go out for a walk and there's nobody there. What are all these people doing? Hey, but he's okay. There may be somebody near you that needs your help. So how can we help people? What can we do for ourselves? How can we make ourselves feel better? Because you know what? We're trying to do this for you. We've done a lot of thinking during the time we have. It kind of allows us to think about stuff. And we're busy dreaming up new ways we can help you get to where you want to be. We're going to turn Yachting Financial Solutions from a kind of financial company, which it isn't really, into something that's all about helping people get to where they want to be. Helping people build the life of their dreams. That's what we've always tried to do. The money is just something that works for you. So stick with us and you'll see how this unfolds. It's really exciting stuff. And as I leave you today, try and think on once again to the kind of good old days of 75, 76 years ago that I reported on last week from Normandy. You know, there is a bit like this. This is a world war. It's all over the world. We're fighting this bloody awful virus. It's dreadful. But 76 years ago, our forefathers were landing on the beaches of Normandy to, set the world free. And there were great men bringing up great ideas and talking about great things. And as you know, my father was a Spitfire pilot, so Churchill is my hero, or one of my heroes. And here's this week's Churchill quote. What is it? Did this one in 1942, so the war was halfway through. Now is not the end. Yeah, it looks like it's the end, doesn't it? And well, I'll do it. Now is not the end. It's not even the beginning of the end. But it is, perhaps, the end of the beginning. Yeah, looked as though this was all the end, doesn't it? The end of the world. No, it's not. I think it's not even the beginning of the end. It's the end. It's the end of the beginning. We're now moving on out of the, gosh, is this all really going to happen? And getting on with it. Let's have new beginnings together. Let's not wait for governments to intervene and make sure things happen. Let's use common sense and make sure that we look after each other. We shouldn't have to let the politicians decide what we do. We should have decided it for ourselves. The trouble is there's an awful lot of people out there that thought this didn't apply to them and therefore they could just do what they liked. It is no surprise that South Korea is looking to have the best recovery rate here because they went into draconian lockdown straight away. So use the common sense. Rely on what people tell you. Rely on the pros. And we'll see you here in the Melet Valley next week. With a bit of luck, with a lamb. See you then. Bye.